Right, okay, this is going to be a response to Monoxide and his top 10 favourite wrestlers. So that's going to do it. Right, I'll be looking down next. I wrote them down. Didn't want to mess my order up. Anyway, Goldberg's number 10. Now, people might think Goldberg's a bit crap in the ring, but Curry is. I'm 18 in a couple of weeks, so back when Goldberg was in his prime WCW, I was like 7, 8 years old, and I bought into the bullshit about him. That all he did was come out, spear, jackhammer, but at the time I was kind of convinced that's all he needed to do because he was awesome. Anyway, I've always enjoyed him. I always bought into the hype about him. So yeah, Goldberg number 10. 9, Sabu. Now Sabu's a special one because he kind of represents 3 guys. It's him, Terry Funk, and Mick Foley, and just the hardcore wrestler that I've always enjoyed. And then because Mick Foley, now it's been said many times, Mick Foley cannot play with his children, on his knees, because his knees won't allow him to. His knees are gone, and it's like that goes far above and beyond anything anyone ever asks of a professional wrestler. And it's that dedication that you have to respect. Terry Funk is another one. Was told when he got to ECW by a doctor, look, you've got severe arthritis in your kidney, I don't want you to do this. Went on, won the title, pulled off a moonsault at like 60 something years old. Well, I don't know if he was that old then, but anyway. And of course Sabu, I've always enjoyed his work as an athletic superstar, the triple jump stuff. Not many people do anything like that. The feuds of Van Dam, the tag team time of Van Dam, the Fonzie stuff. I've always enjoyed him. Always enjoyed Sabu, so yeah. Those 3 kind of represented by Sabu is number 9. We've got Shawn Michaels at 8. Michaels again. I've never really bought into the Heartbreak Kid character, but I don't think I've ever seen a bad Shawn Michaels match. And being a wrestling fan for about 10-11 years, I've seen a lot of bad matches. So yeah, hats off. I've always enjoyed Shawn Michaels, and again, to come back and broke back the way he has. I don't know how many world titles he's had since he came back, and it was a few. Amazing dedication. Again, as a pro wrestling fan, forever be in debt to Shawn Michaels for some of the memories. Anyway, 7 is Austin. Austin's there really because when I got into wrestling, the Attitude Era was in full flow, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And Austin and DX really were the Attitude Era. So without them, I don't know if I would still be watching wrestling now if I hadn't enjoyed that time and just how good Austin was as a champion, and also the chase for him to be champion. I always thought he made a good heel as well, and I'm part of a generation that will always do that hand gesture occasionally because of Stone Cold. 6 would be The Undertaker. I don't like many, as you'll notice as you watch this, I don't like many big professional wrestlers. You never entertain me that much. For one guy it always has is The Undertaker. Whether he's been the American Badass, whether he's been the normal Undertaker, he's always developed the character, I think, and he's always tried to add new moves to what he does, to his moveset, and there aren't any big guys that do that. They just rely on the fact that they're big, they're strong, they look great, and they think, well, why should I? I've got a good finisher, I've got a couple of decent moves, I'll stay at this. But he's tried to reinvent himself, and got to respect that for a guy who's guaranteed to be in the Hall of Fame and is still, trying to be better. Anyway, number 5 will be one I doubt anyone else will say, Billy Kidman. Back when I first started watching wrestling, I was like 6, 7 years old. Billy Kidman was the first guy who I ever looked at and thought, I like him. When I first got into it, I just watched the matches and thought, oh, that's good, whatever, I like the matches. Billy Kidman was the first guy I ever looked at and thought, well, I can't wait till next week because I want to watch him again. I like him. He was my first favourite wrestler. Shooting star press, I'd never seen anything like that before. When he pulled that out, it was just unbelievable. Was never much of a character, but for what he could do in the ring, he was well worth watching him, and I think WWE underused him, but I think he's a trainer now in FCW, so anyone getting trained by Billy Kidman is going to end up being pretty decent to me, so that could be a good thing. Number 4, Y2J, Chris Jericho. Whether we go back to WCW and the Cruiserweight and the United States title, or WWE and the eventual Undisputed Champion and all that, and the matches with Benoit, the matches with Angle, all the stuff he did, the program with Triple H he did was good. Yeah, I've always been entertained. He's always been funny, and I've always liked him in the ring as well. Very similar to Shawn Michaels, I think, in some respects, but just a guy who's always brought me in. I've always wanted to watch Jericho when he was on the screen. I never got bored and changed over. I always wanted to see what he had to say, and the second coming, it's been a little bit disappointing because he's Intercontinental Champion, not World Champion, but he's still young, 36, 37, he's got a couple of years left in him. Hopefully another world title win. So yeah, number 4, Chris Jericho. Number 3, Rey Mysterio. Again, this is a guy much like Shawn Michaels, I've never seen him have a bad match. Thrilled when he got the world title. I thought that was very gutsy of WWE to hand it to a 170-pound guy. But it was a great credit to him that his abilities in the ring and what he'd done had earned him that. Granted, everyone will always say about the Eddie Guerrero, which I think is a shame, which is why I want to see him get another world title run, because at least then the second one will have nothing to do with Eddie, and it'll prove that he is a legit main eventer, and he is. Because he's good enough. He's one of their best wrestlers they've got. He's always been amazing in the ring, and he's not one of these smaller guys who you need to see him get beat up a couple of times a month to still care about him. He doesn't need a sympathy vote, I don't think, because I think he's got enough in the ring to be legit one of the best wrestlers on the planet. Number 2 is another guy who can be considered one of the best wrestlers on the planet. Just thinking it, when he died, Chris Jericho said that, Chris Benoit by the way, Chris Jericho said that Benoit was the Michael Jordan of professional wrestling. They asked Rob Van Dam about him, and he said he could well be the best pro wrestler in the ring. And I always like the characters, the cold, calculated, just beat you up, hurt you type of guy. And I always like submission wrestling. Some of the matches with Angle were epic and always brought more out of each other. I've always enjoyed him, and even with what happened, just try and not think of that and remember the career that he had, and the fact that I always enjoyed Chris Benoit. So again, WrestleMania 20 is something I'll remember for a very long time, purely because of the Benoit match, and that image of him winning the title. So yeah, I'd have no qualms, no matter what anyone says about the fact he's a killer and all that. I don't care. He's still my second favourite wrestler ever. Again, another guy who had natural emotional attachment. You got attached to Benoit, I think. Number 1 then is a very different guy to Benoit, but I think he's a guy who kind of sums up everything I want in a pro wrestler. Rob Van Dam. He's good on the mic, he's entertaining, he's funny. Stuff with Fonzie and Sabu. WWE watered him down a little bit and limited him, like he said at one night stand, limited him to cool or whatever, which was sucked a bit, but there we are. Just the stuff he can do in the ring. He can do things that no one else can, because he doesn't watch pro wrestling, he doesn't want to get stuck doing other people's moves. And that's, the fact that he wants to be different to everyone else, so that's something I respect. And a guy, like it's been said, it's worth going to watch the show if RVD's on it, because you're going to be entertained by his match at least. Screwed himself over when he had the world titles and whatever, and I think it's a shame. He should be in the world title picture right now, not a free agent. He's got himself to blame for that. He's got, debatably, he's got Triple H and some other higher ups in WWE to blame for that, but anyway, I'll probably do a review of his DVD, which I bought recently as well. I'll probably do that coming up. Anyway, just like I said, because he's different to everyone else, and hopefully he comes back to WWE. It won't take him too long to get back to the main event. If he goes to TNA, then I just hope they don't make him look stupid like they have done with Angle, and hopefully they'll just let him have some great matches, which I'm sure he will. So anyway, yeah, that's my top 10. Hopefully we can start cranking some more videos out soon anyway, so cheers, and that's it. Cheers.